Well, howdy y'all. Welcome to Once Upon a Time in Texas, episode number 63. I'm your host, Michael Mitchell. Want to catch y'all up on a couple of random things. We've had a couple of good podcasts lately, and I'm going to get a few more people to be on here soon just to talk about stuff going on. But, a couple of things going on with us. Of course, the eclipse. I'm recording this on Tuesday, April 9th, and so the eclipse happened yesterday, and it was pretty fascinating. So kind of dug it. We were in like 96% totality here in Wichita Falls. I know there were a bunch of folks that traveled not far from here, usually about an hour and a half, I guess, from Wichita Falls. People were in totality, 100% coverage. And so my mother came and broke my daughters out of school for the day and ran down there. And so, they had a good time. Last Saturday, my family and I had a little bit of a day of service, if you want to call it that. Started off, I am in the Wichita Falls Southwest Rotary Club, and we do the flag fundraisers where we put flags up for people all over town at certain holidays. And there were probably 200 or 300 that were pretty tattered, torn, needed to be replaced. And so there were a bunch of us out there, including a bunch of our Road to College kids, which is a program here for students to help them go to college. And not just, the great university, Midwestern State University here in town, or Vernon College here in town, but Road to College really helps them open up really the world, and they get scholarships to kind of all over the country. And again, not saying that Vernon College and Midwestern State aren't amazing universities. They are. This Road to College just really opens up the doors to a lot more possibilities, which is pretty neat, I guess. What a great thing to have in our town. And I've actually got daughter number 2 and my son that are both involved in that right now. So we started off with that, did a couple hours there, and then one of my best friends is the executive director of a place called Wild Bird Rescue, and because it is getting to be baby bird season, they have what they call the baby bird shower, and they go out and basically raise a little money, get supplies and all kinds of stuff for the huge influx of baby birds that'll end up in their center. And the goal of Wild Bird Rescue really is to release, to basically raise and release these birds or, injured birds throughout the year. And a lot of the injured birds are raptors and things like that. But during baby bird season in the spring, it's a lot of songbirds, things like that. So a lot of times they get blown out of the nest or, whatever, or parents aren't around and people will bring them in. And it's great to be a part of that and go out and, especially see those birds released. It's a pretty cool deal. Pretty important work they're doing. And so, look them up. Wild Bird Rescue right here in Wichita Falls. Another thing coming up I'm kind of excited about, I got invited to come to a town hall meeting by City Councilman Michael Battolino, who's also in my Rotary Club. And if that name sounds familiar, he has been on this podcast before. Just super cool guy and doing some great work for the city. So it's kind of cool. Very cool. And so I'm going to go sit in on his town hall meeting and I guess kind of see what it's all about, see what we're working on. So this week, I want to talk about Sheppard Air Force Base a little bit. Kind of want to get into a little history and another base that was here in Wichita Falls, North Texas, that a lot of folks don't know about, that was actually pretty important to the Army Air Corps, which eventually became the Air Force. So before we take a look at a little bit of this history, I'd like to thank our sponsors, which is me and Victory Home Loans. I know there are tons of people moving to and in Texas or Oklahoma, which is where I'm licensed, but the company I work with, Victory Home Loans, is licensed in 15 states, and we're adding a few more, I believe, this year. So really, if you just know anybody moving, send them my way. Send them to themichaelmitchell.com, THEMichaelmitchell.com. And if I'm not licensed there or can't help them, I'm starting to get a good group of mortgage loan originators across the country that I know and have met through different trainings and stuff, and would love to be able to refer them. I do not get paid for referrals like that, so it's not anything like that. I just really do thoroughly enjoy helping people get that American dream of home ownership. So I want to hook them up with the right people. And to be honest, mortgage loan originators or mortgage brokers are the way to go. Matter of fact, we have a website out now called Mortgage Matchup, which is basically you put in a little information kind of about yourself, what you're looking for, and Mortgage Matchup kind of points you in the right direction, really, for a good mortgage loan originator in the area that you're moving. And so it's a great tool, great product. Go check it out, Mortgage Matchup. And like I said, go check me out at themichaelmitchell.com, THEMichaelmitchell.com. And remember, I sell dreams, not mortgages. Because everybody wants the house, nobody wants a mortgage. I get it. So anyway, that's the tough part of the job because, you know, like I said, everybody wants the house, nobody wants the mortgage. And I get it. So nobody really wants what I'm selling. But most folks have to get a mortgage to be able to afford the house. And so here I am. So why not work with somebody who's a little fun and entertaining? Anyway, I do want to drop a little thing. I got the opportunity to be on another local podcast a week or so ago called Get It Right Texoma. And it's some buddies of mine, Mike Hendren, Trey Sarala, and Terry McAdams. Mike Hendren is a local realtor, and I think he's involved in quite a few other things. Trey Sarala is the managing partner, general manager. I don't know, but I know him. I know him from improv, and he used to be on the school board, but he's the general manager. I don't know, main owner. I don't know. Trey will probably correct me if he hears this, but Eddie Hill's Fun Cycles. And Eddie Hill's Fun Cycles is a local ATV shop. They sell new and used and do repairs and all that stuff. Do a great job. And Trey is a super neat guy. But I've known Trey for a long time. Big supporter of the Boy Scouts. Cool dude. And then Terry McAdams is former Air Force and has a company called MacTech Solutions, which is basically our local source for all things Apple. And he fixes and repairs and sells, and he does all kinds of cool stuff there. Does great stuff. Terry's a neat guy, super smart when it comes to electronic stuff, especially Apple. And so it's just good stuff. But yeah, I was on their podcast, Get It Right Texoma. And it's pretty neat. I mean, they just do a lot of updates and stuff going on locally. And so, you know what? Get on and check them out. Just a little plug for somebody else a little different. So where did this week's idea come from for me, for Sheppard Air Force Base? Well, you know, obviously I've lived here a long time. And it's interesting. Sheppard Air Force Base is a huge, huge part of Wichita Falls. But yet a lot of people that live here but aren't really directly associated with an airman or somebody who works at Sheppard, they just kind of know it's there and they know they fly planes. And holy smokes, I've been hearing a lot of facts lately, and I wished I'd written them down. I'm going to do my best to remember them. But lots of facts that, man, really make me think that, I mean, Sheppard Air Force Base is really kind of a powerhouse base as far as the Air Force goes. It's a big deal, and of course has a huge impact, economically and in many other ways right here in Wichita Falls. So we love our Air Force Base, but even more concerning is there's a lot of people around here don't know that there was an Air Force, well, it wasn't an Air Force base, it was Army Air Corps base here previously. And it was called Call Field. And a lot of people are going to be confused about that because we have a Call Field Road. And yeah, Call Field Road is where Call Field actually used to be. So let me get my old interwebs pulled up here so I can get to some of the history. Found a lot of my information this week on Wikipedia. And so, a lot of times it's correct. You got to do a little more research. But let's talk about Call Field, and then we're going to jump into Sheppard. So Call Field is a former World War I military airfield, and it was located at the time 4.6 miles southwest of Wichita Falls. That's hilarious because you drive down Call Field now and it's surrounded by houses for a long, long way. But in the early 15, 17, Call Field was out there. It was definitely, it was kind of out in the boonies a little bit. And so it was operated as a training field for the United States Army Air Service between 1917 and 1919. And it was one of 32 Air Service training camps established in 1918 after the United States their entry into World War I. So Call Field is named for First Lieutenant Loren C. Hall, who reported for aeronautical duty at College Park, Maryland on October 19, 1912. In the winter of 1912-1913, he and Lieutenant E.L. Ellington were sent to Palm Beach, Florida, in charge of the Signal Corps Aviation Station. And then from Palm Beach, Lieutenant Call was ordered to Texas City, Texas, and it was there that he was killed in an airplane accident on July 8, 1913. And so I knew about Call Field. I did not know who it was named after and why it was named that. So that's a little bit of interesting history. So in April 1917, after the United States entered into World War I, the Army announced its intention of establishing a series of camps to train prospective pilots. A guy named Frank Kell, if you are from Wichita Falls, you know Kemp and Kell. We're kind of some big players here. So Frank Kell of Wichita Falls organized an effort to attract the Army to Wichita Falls. In June 1917, the Department of War sent a cadre of officers to the Wichita Falls area to survey sites for an aviation school, and the group decided on a location 4.6 miles southwest of Wichita Falls. And 2 months later, by August 17, 1917, Kell and others had successfully raised $35,000 and had a commitment from the Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railroad to extend tracks to the proposed site of the camp. On August 27th, construction began on the training field. So, Call Field, we tend to say it Call Field like it's all one word. Call Field had 46 buildings, which included 12 hangars that housed 4 to 8 planes called Jennies. And we actually do have an original Jenny that flew here that's out here at our regional airport. It also had a hospital, 6 barracks that held about 175 men each. In May 1918, 4 additional hangars and a row of lofts to hold carrier pigeons were built. It covered over 700 acres and it accommodated up to 1,000 personnel. Dozens of wooden buildings served as headquarters, maintenance, officers' quarters. Enlisted men had to bivouac in tents. I guess, man, people were just tougher back then. And in May 1918, 4 additional hangars and a row of lofts to hold carrier pigeons were built again. So, sorry, that kind of repeated right there. I was just reading. Anyway, yeah. So, a bunch of hangars. In November, when 85% of the work was completed, Major J.B. Brooks arrived to inspect the facilities. On 10 November, he was named commander, and on 29 November, the 163rd Aero Squadron, equipped with 6 Curtiss JN-4 Jenny trainers, arrived from Kelly Field, and the field had 600 pilots by late December. Most of the JN-4 Jennies to be used for flight training, however, were shipped in wooden crates by rail car. And on 15 January 1918, the Army gave final approval for Call Field. So Call Field served as a base for advanced observer training. It offered a 5-week course for observers and a 4-week course for pilots. That seems a little backwards. You can fly the plane in 4 weeks, but to observe stuff, it's going to take you 5. Its student capacity was 300. It also operated a reserve military aviators concentration course with 1 squadron. There were several aero squadrons and other squadrons based here over the years. And during its operation, 3,000 officers, cadets, and enlisted men were stationed at Call Field, and 500 officers received their wings right here in Call Field. 2 squadrons left the training facility for overseas duties, and only 34 men lost their lives during training exercises, which was the smallest number of fatalities at any training center that the Army Air Corps had. So with the sudden end of World War I in November of 1918, remember, so we're only talking about a year, roughly, that this thing was in full operation. The future operational status at Call Field was unknown. Many local officials speculated the U.S. government would keep the field open because of the outstanding combat record established by the pilots in Europe. Locals also pointed to the optimal weather condition in North Texas area for flight training, and cadets in flight training on 11 November 1918 were allowed to complete their training. However, no new cadets were assigned to the base. Also, the separate training squadrons were consolidated into a single flying school detachment, as many of the personnel assigned were being demobilized. Finally, flight training activity ceased November 8th, 1919. So they were able to kind of string it along for another year. In December 1919, Call Field was deactivated as an active duty airfield. However, a small caretaker unit was assigned to the facility. The War Department had ordered the small caretaker force to dismantle all remaining structures and sell them as surplus. So in 1920, Ernest Hall, which was a former instructor here, operated a flying school out of the facility. And then the Wichita Polo Club briefly used a portion of the land for its polo field. In 1937, the Wichita Falls Junior Chamber of Commerce and American Legion erected a small marker near the gates of the old field in memory of the 34 men who were killed. And then, to be honest, I'm not sure where that marker is. I need to go look around. I think it's actually behind an oil change shop that's tucked in over there. So anyway, and as I said before, the name is perpetuated by a street name called Call Field Road. So there you go. Kind of interesting, huh? So Call Field was really our first soiree, I guess, into aviation here. So now let's jump into Sheppard Air Force Base. So it's obviously a U.S. Air Force Base located 5 miles north of the Central Business District in Wichita Falls, here in Wichita County. It is the largest training base and most diversified in Air Education and Training Command. It was named in honor of Texas Senator John Morris Sheppard, who was a supporter of military preparations for World War II. So I was told something recently, they had a guy that came and asked, and I don't remember who it was, but they were making a presentation, and they said, how many percentage-wise airmen do you think pass through Sheppard Air Force Base? And we're thinking, Sheppard is huge. We're thinking 40 or 50%. And And he was like, yeah, you're all wrong. It was something like crazy, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was like 82% of all Air Force personnel pass through Sheppard Air Force Base at some time in their Air Force career. That is huge. It may not be exactly 82%, but it was on up there. Like, it was right there in that range. And it was like, holy crap. That's a ton of people, man. So one of the most interesting things, and I'll talk about this a little more, another fact that was thrown out, Sheppard Air Force Base is actually one of the busiest airports, not only in the U.S., but in the world, because it shares a runway with the Wichita Falls Municipal Airport under what they call a joint civil-military agreement. So what does that mean? Why is it the busiest? Well, we do Air Force training, pilot training here. And every time a plane lands and takes off, it's considered a sortie. And so now I'm going to cruise down. I've got to scroll down. Shoot, I should have written this down. It's some sort of insanely crazy amount of landings that happen. And shoot, I lost it. I should have written it down. Gosh dang it. We'll get to it at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, it's something like, I don't know, 200,000 or something crazy. So let's get into the history. I'm going to run across that number again here in a minute because I know I've seen it. No, maybe it's on the other one. Oh, yep, here it is. It was on the other page. So at the year ending in 2020, the airport had 202,034 aircraft operations. So aircraft operations, or a sortie, I guess is what they call it, is basically a plane landing and taking off. Well, the Air Force does a ton of touch and goes daily. I mean, these boys are out flying, well, not just boys, these airmen are out flying planes every day. So every time they touch and go, that's a sortie, and it counts. And so they average about 553 landings and takeoffs a day. The airport itself is about 97% military, 2% airline, and less than that is just general aviation, other people. So in 2020, it said 213 aircraft were then based at the airport. 200 were military, and I think that number is quite a bit bigger now. 3 single engine, 9 multi-engine, and 1 jet. So could you imagine that? I mean, we don't even notice anymore hardly. Planes are just going all the time. So Sheppard Air Force Base is named in honor of Senator John Morris Sheppard of Texas, who was the chairman of the Senate Military Affairs Committee from 1933 until his death in 1941. And he was a huge proponent for military preparedness before the attack on Pearl Harbor. So the base began as Sheppard Field on 300 acres, which was near what they called Kell Field at the time, and I'm going to talk about that. A Texas cattleman, oilman, and philanthropist, Joseph Sterling Bridwell, sold the land to the U.S. Army for $1 at the time. So let's go ahead and jump into Kell Field, because we talked about Caulfield. We've talked about, Frank Kell, and then there was Joseph Kemp. Those are kind of the big guys. So Kell Field is now the Wichita Falls Regional Airport. And it was actually started in 1928 when Joseph A. Kemp, who was another big founder here, gave the order basically to build Wichita Falls' first ever airport. I guess commercial and civilian airport. They started airplane hangars and all that, and it was named Kell Field in honor of Frank Kell, who was a prominent financier and builder from Wichita Falls. And then the airport officially opened July 4th, 1928, and 2 U.S. Army airplanes from Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio were the first planes to land at the airport. So even before we had Sheppard Air Force Base or Sheppard Field, the first planes to land on our official airport, airfield here were military planes. So we've been tied to the Air Force pretty far back. So it was originally operated as a privately owned airport, but it was later sold to the city of Wichita Falls, who still owns it. And then it went through a whole plethora of different airways, commercial airliners that would fly in here. Braniff, Continental, Texas International Airlines, Rio Airways. We've got American Eagle that's been here since 1985. Texas Star Airlines. Trans Central Airlines, Air Spirit Airlines. Anyway, Atlantic Southeast, that's another one. Anyway, there's just a ton of airlines that have been through here, but American Eagle, we get flight service, I believe, twice a day right now. So anyway, and then the entire airport, including Sheppard, I believe now encompasses 3,800 acres. So this started off as 240. Sheppard was 300, so that's 540 acres, and it's grown now to 3,800 acres. So Kell Field ended up being changed to Wichita Falls Regional Airport, and it's now combined with Sheppard Air Force Base. So there you go, a little bit of history there. Back to Sheppard Air Force Base. It was officially opened as a United States Army Air Corps Training Center on October 17th, 1941, following the arrival of its first military members on June 14th of that same year. As the Army Air Corps became the Army Air Forces, facilities were completed to allow for the first class of 22 aviation mechanics to enter training in October 1941, and that class graduated in February of 1942. So during World War II, the then Sheppard Field conducted basic training. It also trained glider mechanics, technical and flying training instructors, and B-29 Super Fortress flight engineers. In addition to basic flying training, the base also provided advanced flying training, which we still do today. Its peak had 46,340 airmen while serving as a separation center for troops being discharged from World War II. So that was kind of the height. Sheppard Field was deactivated in August 31st of 1946 and declared surplus to the War Department's needs. It was transferred to the jurisdiction of the United States Army Corps of Engineers April 30th, 1947. And then over the next 2 years, the Texas National Guard used the base. So then the control and accountability for Sheppard Field was transferred to the Department of the Air Force August 1st, 1948, and was reactivated August 15th to supplement Lackland Air Force Base as a basic training center. And at that time, it was renamed Sheppard Air Force Base. So basic training was discontinued in 1949 and then resumed again in July 1950 through May 1952. So Sheppard has kind of been on and off again a little bit since it started at this point. Over the next 3 decades, 3 training schools are stationed at the base, training students in aircraft maintenance, transportation, communication, civil engineering, aircrew life support, and field training. So the Aircraft Mechanics School was transferred to Sheppard from Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi in April of 1949 to make room for expansion of electronic training at that base. Anyway, they did a bunch of stuff. Then during the Korean War, so 50 to 53, several airmen from such places as Greece and Turkey were trained as mechanics here. So comptroller, transportation, intelligence training all moved to Sheppard from Lowry Air Force Base in Colorado in 54. Communications, refrigeration, air conditioning, and power production operator and repairman training were transferred from F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming in 1959. And then the intelligence training was returned to Lowry in 1962. Training in certain missile systems began at Sheppard in 1957 and was conducted there through September 1985, when Titan II training operations were terminated following that weapon system's retirement. I am told that there are still missile silos out on Sheppard Air Force Base. And hell, even one of the myths are that there are still missiles out there at Sheppard Air Force Base. Who knows? You know, it's all myths. The 3950th Technical Training Wing was designated the Sheppard Technical Training Center on January 1, 1959. And then it had 2 subsequent name changes and is now the 82nd Training Wing. This next part, I had no idea. Helicopter pilot training was transferred here from Steed Air Force Base in Nevada in October of 1965. They had several, 5 different types of helicopters were used for training. Additional training in airborne firefighting was also conducted using helicopters, as well as local rescue and aircraft firefighting assets were used here. So the 36th 30th Flying Training Wing was activated in 1965, and it assumed the helicopter training program, and it began providing undergraduate pilot training in the T-37 and then the T-38 for the then West German Air Force in August 1966. Helicopter training was discontinued here in 1971 when the U.S. Army assumed responsibility for that training, and they trained U.S. Air Force helicopter pilots, is what it says. The 36th 30th Flying Training Wing also provided undergraduate pilot training for pilots for the Republic of Vietnam Air Force from 71 to 75. The wing designation was changed from the to the 80th Flying Training Wing, January 1st, 1973. And then the 80th Training Wing began conducting the Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training Program, or NJEPT as they call it, in 1981. It's a one-of-a-kind program with NATO, and I think this is wrong. I think we've actually added 2 countries, but this says 13 NATO countries are involved, and they are Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Germany, Greece, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States. I believe maybe they've added a couple of others since then. Maybe a couple have dropped out and a few others. Yeah, because I said Italy. Italy's on here. I think maybe Afghanistan. I don't remember. I heard it recently, and dang it, I wished I'd written it down. I'm sorry. But anyway, the point is, at any given time, we have roughly 15 NATO countries that send their pilots here to do training. And it's awesome. It is an incredible thing. I've been through on tours out there, and holy crap, what they do out there is just amazing. So yeah, the Strategic Air Command between 1960 and 1966. Strategic Air Command, or SAC, had training units stationed at the base that conducted aerospace rescue schools and weather instruction. In addition, the 494th Bombardment Wing, a SAC operational wing of B-52D Stratofortress bombers and KC-135A Strato tankers, were based at Sheppard from 63 to 66, and we still have a few of them out there. And then the 2nd Bombardment Wing with 4 B-52 aircraft became tenant organization at Sheppard and remained until 1975. So that was kind of cool. Major commands that were assigned here were the Army Air Forces Technical Wing. So from 42 to 43, the Army Air Forces Training Wing from 43 to 46. Air Training Command from 46 to basically 93. And then the Air Education and Training Command from 93 to present. So we have the 82nd Training Wing. We host them here. It is considered the most diversified training base within the Air Force. It is a non-flying wing that conducts all technical training at Sheppard. They do, I don't remember. It's all kinds of crap. There's the mission support group, the medical group. Anyway, it says together with the 80th Flying Training Wing, more than 7 million U.S. and Allied soldiers have been trained through this particular wing. The 80th Flying Training Wing, its mission is to produce NATO pilots with the skills and attitude to succeed in fighter aviation. That is the INJEPT program, the multinational program. It's super cool. German Air Force sends a lot over here. Man, there was another one. Was it Brazil? Shoot, I don't remember. There's a couple of South American countries that participate. Anyway, it's just super cool stuff going on out there. Under the 80th Flying Training Wing, we've had the 80th OSS Wizards, the 88th Fighter Training Squadron, known as the Lucky Devils, the 89th Flying Squadron, known as the Banshees, the 90th Flying Training Squadron, which is the Boxing Bears, 97th Flying Training Squadrons, the Mad Cats or the Devil Cats, the 459th Flying Training Squadron or the Twin Dragons, and the 469th, known as the Fighting Bulls. And I think I've got a patch or a sticker or something from the Fighting Bulls because of stuff we do with Rotary. So, yeah, that's just incredible, guy. I mean, I hope some folks from around here hear this, and people all over the world. We've got one of the coolest things going on right here in Wichita Falls with Sheppard Air Force Base, and of course our long history going back to Call Field, which was our initial aeronautical base. So I just think that's cool stuff, and I hope you guys do too. I'm a little over my usual 30 minutes, and so, I kind of want to, you know what? I'll just use the pun. I'm going to land this plane. So there you go. What do y'all think? Let me know. What other kind of weird, off-the-wall, or interesting Texas history you'd like to hear about? Want to thank the sponsors again. Me and Victory Home Loans. Keep in mind, if you know someone moving, especially in Texas or Oklahoma, have them reach out to me, themichaelmitchell.com, THEMichaelmitchell.com. I love helping people get that American dream of home ownership. Thank you all for tuning in to Once Upon a Time in Texas. As always, remember, the stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. Y'all have a great week.